Hey YouTubers, this is Old John. I'm going to do a video today on how to do some simple compacting of soil. In this case I'm using gravel around settled areas along your house foundation. This is going to occur because soil is not properly compacted around houses the way it should be. It's just done usually with a bobcat or a backhoe, and as a young engineer, civil engineer, I learned that you have to compact with a machine that's built just for compacting, and what you're doing is you don't want to compact it any more than about 6 inches in depth each layer. We call it lifts, 6-inch lifts in the dirt industry. I've watched a lot of lagoons built where a lot of dirt has been laid down, and if you do it more than 6 inches at a time, then you can have gaps between the layers, and what's called bridging, and they will eventually fail, and then you'll have a huge settlement problem. But compacting is actually, what you're doing is you're driving moisture from the soil, and because the moisture keeps the soil from settling, and then after years of having a weight or a load on it or droughts, it'll settle. So we used to test the moisture content of the soil before it was compacted and then after it was compacted, and by telling how much moisture was left, we'd know how good the compaction was. So anyway, so my soil is settled around my front steps here, and I've scraped back the purple gravel that was laid down by the previous owner, and you can see that the gravel should be up here on the sidewalk somewhere, or even up here, and it's settled. This is a fabric to keep seeds from going down and growing weeds, but it's settled from here down to here, which is probably good 5 inches all the way around the step. And so I've simply scraped out the gravel using a hoe, and then I'm going to put this gravel in its place. You could use sand, but the sand is going to tend to go down through the holes. I'll try to put some down in these holes here that are obvious. I'm going to cover these up anyway, because then critters will try to burrow underneath. So I'm just using this pry bar to try to kind of force some of this rock into any holes. This is pretty good sized rock. You could use smaller, but this is all I have available. I'm actually borrowing this from my neighbor. He's having his house built, and I've let him use my water, so we're trading off, and I'm using some of his gravel. But you want to get this in all the low spots you can, and then we're going to level it out and then put the gravel back over it. So you got to scrape the gravel back. It hasn't settled enough that the step has started to sink, which is good. This house is about 16 years old, so it's had quite a bit of settling. On this side you can see it's not quite as bad. Now, one way you can tell if it's settled too much is if this downspout connection here actually wants to pull loose, then you know this has been settling too much. I got a little bit of settling here on the end of my concrete wall, which I'm going to have to raise. That's another thing. You can just get back and look and see if it looks like it's been settling, and it has. And that's further evidence here, because I had to, this downspout bottom had disconnected from the pipe that goes underground by about 2 inches. So this is settled at least a couple of inches. So I screwed on these pipe extensions. They're only like 2-inch diameter PVC pipe, and I'll leave you a link on how I did that if you're interested. So that's basically what I'm doing today, is just trying to overcome some of the settling. You can see a little dip here, so there may be some settling there. That's probably over the pipe that's going underground around the house. So I basically scraped out the gravel. With my hands and my hoe. Now, don't get on me because I'm working with flip-flops. You want to be careful. I mean, if you're dangerous with a hoe or shovel, you might want to have good shoes on, even steel-toed boots. But I'm a little handier than that, so I'm not doing that. So now I'm gonna continue putting gravel in, just using a shovel. And I'll show you here, I'm doing this one-handed. So I'll just dump gravel in there. So I'll go ahead and do that, and then I'll show you the completed project. Okay, one thing handy about using this pry bar, it has a flat end on it, so I actually kind of compact the rock a little bit with it. Now, you know, this is not perfect, and you don't want to do this for actually building a house. This is just filling in some areas where settlings occurred, and this will happen around your house. I mean, unless you have it done very expensively with the kind of compaction I was talking about. Commercial buildings tend to get better compaction because they hold even more weight. But you know, this is a handy little thing just to kind of compact the gravel. Gravel's already gonna, you know, not settle much anyway. That's why it's used. So that's the purpose of putting the gravel down. So anyway, so I'm getting close to being done on this side, then I'll work on the other side. Okay, I'm just putting the gravel back, just spreading it back to my hands. And you want the gravel to be sloping downward, and that's why you put the white gravel. You want to make sure there's a slope downward so the water tends to drain away from the house. So I've done it over here. I don't know if you can tell or not, but there's a slope. I'll probably have to use my hoe to get this pulled back, because I've pulled out so much. But you can see that's the way it's going to look. And obviously, if you end up seeing white gravel through this colored gravel, then you want to scrape it back off and pick some of the white gravel out and put the colored gravel back in. And one thing about the gravel I didn't point out, you can actually compact the white gravel with your foot So that side's pretty much done with maybe just a little tweaking. And now I'll do the other side. Okay, here's the other side dug out. There's the finished side on the right. And it's pretty settled here too. I wanted to point out a couple of interesting items. This right here is a rebar, reinforcing bar. It's made out of steel and looks like it's probably about a 1/4 inch in diameter, which would be called a number 4 because you use the bottom number. And then here's another one here, and this is good because this shows that they tried to anchor this sidewalk into this slab, this step here, and the step is probably anchored into the foundation wall, this foundation wall right here, as you can see going around, which goes deep down to solid earth, hopefully, and gravel. And so the sidewalk has extra bearing capacity because of these rebars. So this step here is actually taking some of the weight of the sidewalk and keeping the sidewalk from settling more. So there's quite a hole here, so I will fill that with gravel. And then probably about 2 feet out, there's still some settling alongside the sidewalk. So, and then it's continuing around here, and I see some brown gravel. I put in some brown gravel in here before to keep it from settling, and that's helped. But I need to put this gravel along here, and as you can see, it's settled quite a bit there, probably 3 or 4 inches up where the sidewalk ties in. But those reinforcing bars are helping. So what I'm doing is a little more cosmetic. There's one there too. Looks like they've got them approximately every foot spacing, 6 inches to foot. So I'm going to put the gravel in now. So as long as I have enough purple gravel to go over, that's the general idea. Okay, so there's the finished product. There's a few white rocks I need to separate out, but I think it looks good. And you know, it may settle some more someday. So these are things that happen around the house, especially over time. So if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Got lots more videos like this. I'll leave my playlist here on the bottom or the top of the screen. It's Harrison 4803. Old John is signing off now.